Good morning. I'm going to call the meeting to order. It's a public board meeting, September 28th, of the Board of Pharmacy. We'll start out with a roll call. Ricardo, do you want to start us out?
Sure. Ricardo Sanchez, public member.
Yvonne Zabotler, professional member.
Alan Schaff, professional member.
Amy Gutierrez, professional member.
Victor Long, professional member.
Stan Weiser, professional member.
Valerie Munoz, public member.
Debbie Beal, professional member. So we'll start out on any public comments for items not on the agenda or agenda items for future meetings. If you can come up, please. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. Well, I'm not at the
Good morning. I'm a licensed California pharmacist, and I'm licensed in other states, and I wanted to bring up issues that we can investigate in board meeting later on or even today. The first issue I wanted to talk about is workflow accountability. You guys should think about passing a law that has to ensure that every pharmacy has a task tracker to know who did what in the workflow. So whoever filled the prescription, whoever did the data entry, whoever did data verification, whoever did will call, like selling out the prescription, that should all be documented on the task tracker, and every pharmacy should have it by now in 2017. Also, another thing I wanted to bring up is it's along those lines. It has to do with so now that you have workflow accountability, now you can whoever's involved in that, if they made an error, or they should be held accountable for it. And also, I know you guys are exploring expanding the role of the technician. I think if you, in California, there's a lot of work demanded on pharmacists because of California pharmacy law. And if that load is alleviated, like for instance, receiving the drug order, why does it have to be the pharmacist in California signing off on the McKesson order? It should be the technician or someone else should be deployed in performing that task. So in regards to non-discretionary tasks, that's considered non-discretionary. That's something the technician can do. And also, you guys should have online license renewal for pharmacists. I've been waiting for 10 years and it hasn't happened yet. So far, all the other states that I'm licensed in, they've already carried out online license renewal. And I just got a slip in the mail a month ago to renew my license, and I still have to do it through the United States Postal Service, which, I think that's ridiculous. What else? I really didn't come prepared for this. I had some things I wanted to talk about. I guess for now, that's pretty much it.
Thank you. I'd recommend that you attend the licensing committee meetings because there's a lot of discussion going on licensing issues that you raised.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks. Any other public comments? Okay, we'll move on to item 3, which is petitions for reinstatement of licensure or other reduction of penalty, and we're going to go ahead and go in the order that's listed on the agenda. So I'll turn it over to Your Honor.
Good morning. My name is Thomas Heller. I'm an administrative law judge with the Office of Administrative Hearings. I'll be sitting with the board on these 4 petitions for reinstatement. Petitions I have, I want to make sure all the petitioners are here. Glenn Greenberg, Sean Lee, Albert Daher, and Ahmad Nabhan. Good morning. I'll describe a little bit the process for all 4 of you, so I don't have to repeat it for each case. When I call your cases, I'll announce your name, and you can come up to the table here next to Deputy Attorney General, who's appearing as well. The Deputy Attorney General will present the petition for reinstatement. I'll administer an oath to you. You'll have the opportunity to make a statement, if you wish, with regards to the petition. If you have witnesses to call, you may do that. I'll administer an oath to them as well. Ms. Kellogg, the Deputy Attorney General, may have questions for you in relation to your petition. And following that, then board members, I'll give them the opportunity to ask you any questions that they have. So with that, I'm going to call the first case in the order that I was given. Glenn Greenberg, pharmacist license number 49982, case number 5975.
Please approach.
State your name into the microphone there, please.
Glenn Greenberg.
And you're appearing on your own without counsel, sir?
Yes.
Can I get appearances from the Deputy Attorney General?
Yes, Your Honor. Good morning, Desiree Kellogg, Deputy Attorney General, on behalf of the people of the state of California, pursuant to Business and Professions Code Section 2760.1 and Government Code Section 11522.
This case also has an Office of Administrative Hearings case number 2017-090-756. So, Ms. Kellogg, do you have the petition to present?
Yes, I would like to have marked for identification and offer into evidence as Exhibit 1, the original petition packet with accompanying documents, and the default decision and order as Exhibit 2. The board members and petitioner have been provided with copies of the same set of exhibits. Would also like to mark for identification and offer into evidence as Exhibit 3, the agreement to electronic recording the hearing. May I approach?
Yes. I've been presented with those 3 documents. You've seen those, sir? Mr. Greenberg?
Yes.
All right. Do you have any objection to me admitting those as evidence for this petition proceeding?
No.
And I'll mark and admit those as exhibits 1 through 3. Sir, then I'm going to administer an oath to you. So can you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Now you have an opportunity to make a statement, if you wish, about the petition, anything else you believe is important and relevant for the board to know. So, since you don't have a lawyer, it doesn't have to be a question and answer session. You don't have to question yourself. Just go ahead.
On May 25th, 2006, I was driving from my home in Manchester, Pennsylvania to my parents' home in Marietta along Route I-15 South. I had been recently terminated from my job. The reason being too many mistakes made, according to the store's long-term technician manager, which store was located in Ontario. The idea of working in that store was fresh in my mind, and it was oddly strange that I became terminated shortly after I had given the owner a note expressing an example of how she was a problem in the store. I wasn't in the greatest frame of mind during that drive, so I was maybe a little nervous how I would find my next job, hoping that I would never have an experience like that medicine shop ever again. As I drove somewhat agitated to begin with, I got alarmed when a motorcycle rode directly behind my rental car, tailgating closely at full freeway speed. At first, I wasn't too
Can I
alarmed.
ask you to speak a little bit closer to the mic so we can hear really well everything you're saying?
Okay.
Thank you.
At first, I wasn't alarmed because I understood that motorcycles are generally in a hurry and usually they try to pass you quickly. This was not the case. He did not pass me quickly, and he drove behind me he stayed closely behind me for several miles. As he rode behind me, I began to worry that he might be trying to do something to me, because he was driving so close. There was nothing I could do about that dangerous driving, but I did get upset about it. Finally, after about 10 miles, he passed me and started riding in the same way behind a truck in front of me. At that point, I did feel that there was something that I could do. I believed that he was writing too dangerous and that I should do something. So I started I started a skirmish between us in such a way that caused him to move to the right shoulder of the freeway. Our skirmish lasted a few minutes, with me driving nearly next to him. Keeping him in the shoulder. At one point, my car actually gently touched his motorcycle, which startled him and angered him. The skirmish lasted without any incident, and I eventually switched lanes to the left and drove on. I was happy that nothing had happened. The motorcyclist was very angry at me as I drove off. He did everything he could to get me to pull over. He sped up and rode to the right shoulder and did pop wheelies and got angry, stopping and slowing down, waiting for me to pull over. I chose to avoid him because I didn't want any altercations. My intention was to leave him stranded. Eventually he stopped and he got off his motorcycle, and I intended to leave him stranded. So I pulled over and hit his motorcycle, and then I tried to drive off. But as I drove off, he ran over to my car and punched a hole in my passenger side front window and shattered the entire window. The impact of that broken window was so strong that the steering system of my car went out and my car went out of control. I ended up crashing into the central divide and totaling the car in the middle of the freeway. I was taken to the hospital by paramedics and examined with an MRI. I was also given a drug test. I passed both tests, but I was arrested in the hospital and taken to the Riverside County Detention Center. When I appeared before the judge for the first time, I learned that I was charged with a felony. I could not believe that I was a felon, but I learned that the motorcyclist claimed that he hurt his own as the result of me trying to kill him. This was a lie because he hurt his arm when he broke my window. Several witnesses corroborated his story. I learned that I did not damage his motorcycle when he eventually did not claim any restitution. The court battle lasted for 3 years. For most of the time, the prosecution was dead against me and sought to put me in prison due to the fact that I had previous convictions and that because the victim, the motorcyclist, fought with the court, calling and harassing them daily to get his way. He won, and I ended up getting sentenced to 6 months in jail and 5 years probation. While the court was with the court time and trying to get my criminal background, I have wasted nearly 11 years of my life. There were other circumstances in my life that affected my judgment on the day that the incident occurred, aside from the loss of the job. Over the previous 2 years, my work history was a series of mainly short job assignments, which ended in disappointing ways. From 2002 to 2008, from 2002 to 2005, I had 9 different jobs as a pharmacist, and all of these jobs were short-lived. For this reason, my life was unstable as far as I was concerned. I was also having difficulties with relationships between family and friends. I basically had no friends in my life, which was mostly to do by choice due to my circumstances. But I have a close family, and we were not getting along very well. And during that time period surrounding the incident, I had a relationship with a girlfriend in 2002, which lasted 9 months. When our relationship ended, I was looking forward to moving on, but unfortunately circumstances took place. Such as job losses and criminal convictions, which eventually led to my loss of pharmacist license. I was unable to move on, and my life eventually entered dire straits to the point that I couldn't get employment for volunteer work, which required a criminal background check. This lifestyle took place and well beyond my conviction in 2009. I chose not to have any relationships during that time because of my circumstance. My mental health condition was also a factor in the incident. I was experiencing symptoms of mental illness, which included paranoia, hearing voices, lack of concentration, and some agitation. I was doing everything I could for myself, which included seeing my psychiatrist regularly, and the combination of lithium and Wellbutrin together, which were supposed to be powerful mood stabilizers for bipolar disorder. It was decided after my incident that my medication should be changed. And my doctor changed my diagnosis from bipolar disorder to schizoaffective disorder. I continued with the lithium and discontinued the Wellbutrin. Risperdal taken once daily was added to my drug regimen. In the past, I had taken antipsychotics for times when I became ill, and then I would go off of them. But now I started taking Risperdal daily. Eventually, I came out of my depression after taking Lexapro for about a year, and I still take Lexapro today to prevent anything like that, depression from reoccurring. I'm finally doing fine now. I see a therapist regularly. I see my psychiatrist every 3 months. I take lithium and Risperdal and Lexapro daily. I have been stable and symptom-free for several years, and with this regimen, other things that have helped improve my condition were peer employment training and wellness recovery action plan, WRAP, the RAP program. Peer employment training was one course that I completed. As training gave me a sense of hope that there were things that I could do when I was having difficulty finding work. The RAP course helped me understand my condition and how to better deal with it. I learned to be familiar with things like triggers that can make me worse and what to do when things like that happen. It also taught me that your family is very important to you and is your support net. More recently, I've taken the Pathways to Success program, which helps you find employment, and it's through the County of Riverside. There, through the Department of Vocational Rehab. I have Dorothy Hogans with me today, who has been by my side throughout the whole program, which has helped me find my way back to work, and has also helped me with my legal issues. Over the years, my relationship with my family has improved significantly. I've been living in my parents' house since 2006 because I haven't been able to afford to live on my own. We have learned to respect each other, and my parents look out for me in case I might have a relapse. We celebrate holidays together as a family along with my 3 brothers and their families. In August of 2015, all 15 of us took a vacation together in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. We had never taken a trip like this before. All of us had a fabulous time. My family is also starting to look up to me despite my past transgressions. In February of 2015, I started receiving Social Security disability benefits each month. This has had a positive impact on my life. I was in a position without any money or possibility of work for years, but after some fighting with Social Security, they found my condition serious enough to receive disability payments. I've also taken trips recently. I've had the money and I've gone to the Caribbean on singles trips and singles cruises. And I recently had a relationship with a girlfriend that lasted 9 months and ended in April. I'm seriously ready to start a relationship which will hopefully lead to a family of my own. Being on disability has helped me a lot recently, but it is not my plan to be on it for long. I have cleared my record in all of my criminal convictions, and I'm now ready to go back to my profession. I'm hoping to start new and fresh.
Ms. Kellogg, do you have questions?
Yes, I do, Your Honor, and I also have an opening statement as well, or summary.
Please proceed.
Thank you. Petitioner has a history of committing violent crimes. On or about January 15, 2004, he was convicted of assault with a deadly weapon, non-firearm, when he hit the motorcycle of an undercover police officer who told petitioner to pull over after a traffic infraction. On June 16, 2005, he was convicted of assault for throwing large stones at children and others. On December 6, 2006, he was convicted of defrauding an innkeeper. On May 23, 2006, he was convicted of battery on a security guard. On August 28, 2006, he was convicted of a hit and run with property damage. On March 18, 2009, he was convicted of assault with a deadly weapon, non-firearm. Effective February 21st, 2007, petitioner's pharmacist license was revoked by way of a default decision in order. Petitioner has now filed a petition for reinstatement of his license. I'm now prepared to proceed with questions. Mr. Greenberg, can you please turn to page 2 of your petition? Is that your signature on the bottom of page 2?
Yes.
Did you sign the petition declaring under penalty of perjury under the laws of the state of California that the information in the petition was true and correct?
Yes.
Are your answers to the questions in the petition true and correct?
Yes.
Isn't it true that you answered no to question number 15? Have you ever had disciplinary action taken against your pharmacist license?
Well, never before this. I thought it was obvious that I had it taken this time, but before that, never.
But isn't it true that you answered no to that question?
Yeah, that was the reason I answered it. I felt it.
But you have had your pharmacist license disciplined, correct?
Just this time.
Please turn to your answers to questions number 16 and 17 on your application. Your summaries of your answers.
What was it?
Your answers to 16 and 17. In your answers, you state that none of these convictions had anything to do with the practice of pharmacy, and my license should be restored because my convictions had nothing to do with the practice of pharmacy. Why do you believe that your convictions had nothing to do with the practice of pharmacy?
They were off the job. They were not related to any laws regarding pharmacy or anything that had to do with practice of pharmacy. They were just outside of work, outside of everything that has to do with work.
But don't you agree that pharmacists have to have a calm demeanor?
Yes.
Please turn to your answer to question number 12. In your answer, you say that you were going through difficulties during the years 2004 through 2006. However, isn't it true that you were arrested for assault with a deadly weapon in 2002?
I thought it was 2003. I'm not 100% sure. I thought it was 2003.
Isn't it true that you were arrested for maliciously and unlawfully attempting to give, mail, send, and cause to be sent a false and facsimile bomb to a Superior Court judge and your former attorney with the intent to cause fear for their personal safety and the safety of others?
Well, that did happen, but there was nothing about that package that resembled anything like a bomb. If you would look at it, it was just a bottle of liquid that had a funny name on it. There was nothing like a detonator, nothing like a wire, nothing that would say it was anything like a bomb. But they found a package in my car and they called the bomb squad out. So since they did that, they said it had to be a fake bomb. But it really wasn't, and it got dismissed. It never went anywhere.
And why did you send that package to the Superior Court judge?
It was just like a gag. I was a little disappointed with the judge because it started my life to have a downfall. But it was only like a gag. It wasn't like anything dangerous.
Did you intend to threaten the judge?
No.
And why did you send it to your former attorney?
For basically the same reason. It was like an end of the line type of picture, and I just wanted to send something to say we're done, basically.
So it's your testimony that you weren't intending to threaten those individuals?
No, not at all.
You were just intending to perpetrate a gag on them?
Yes.
How many letters of recommendation did you submit in support of your petition? Was one of the letters of recommendation written by your father, Leonard Greenberg?
Yes.
Please turn to that letter. Tell me when you have it, please. Is this the letter that your father wrote for you? Is this the letter that your father wrote for you in support of your petition?
Yes.
Can you please turn to the letter by, was one of your letters of recommendation written by Dorothy Hoggins?
Yes.
Can you please turn to that letter? Is this the letter that Ms. Hoggins wrote for you?
Yes.
And who is she?
She works for the Department of Vocational Rehab Pathways to Success, which is part of Riverside County.
And is she a licensed mental health worker?
The Pathways to Success program is designed for mental ill people that she works with. So I think she is.
But you're not sure.
Yes. She's here today.
Has she been involved in your medical treatment for your mental conditions?
No. I think that sometimes they monitor it, I think. I'm not sure.
And can you please describe the circumstances under which you wrote this letter?
I've been a student through Pathways to Success, and she is a mentor for that organization, and she helped me with the letter.
Please turn to the letter from Sheila Balin. Did Ms. Balin write this letter for you?
Yes.
And when did she write this letter?
It says 2000, April 22nd, 2016.
And can you please describe the circumstances under which Ms. Balin wrote this letter for you?
We have been friends. I have been her boss. I was a pharmacy manager in Simi Valley at Walmart, and she started working there under me when I used to work there. And she still knows who I am.
And you asked her to write this letter for you?
Yes.
And she gave you this letter?
Yes.
Please turn to the letter from Donald Morey. Did Mr. Morey write this letter in support of your petition?
Yes.
And when was that?
March 16, 2016.
And can you describe the circumstances under which he wrote this letter?
He is a family friend. He's known me for a long time. My father was good friends of his, and I worked with my father at his medicine shop, pharmacy in Upland. And he would come into that store quite a bit and sometimes work with my father and speak with him, and that's how he got to know me.
And you asked him to write this letter?
Yes.
And he wrote it for you?
Yes.
Isn't it true that Ms. Balin did not write this letter of recommendation for you?
Well, she gave me information over the telephone to put in the letter, and I actually wrote it. So she didn't do all the writing of it. But I put things in it that she gave me.
And isn't it true that Mr. Morey did not write the letter of recommendation that you attached to your petition?
No.
That's not true?
No.
He wrote the letter for you. Your Honor, at this time, I would like to request that it be admitted into evidence Exhibits 4, 5, and 6, which are the declarations of Sheila Balin, or the statements of Sheila Balin, the statement of Donald Morey, and the declaration of Inspector Catherine Sill. The statement of Sheila Balin specifies that she did not write or authorize the letter and the letters of fraud. The statement from Mr. Morey says the letter of reference was not written, authorized, or signed by him. And the declaration of Catherine Sill describes her conversations with Mr. Balin and Mr. Morey.
Mr. Greenberg, have you seen copies of those documents? They're being handed to you now. Make sure you're taking a look at those. Tell me if you have any objections to those being admitted, sir.
May I?
Mark the statement of Sheila Balin is Exhibit 4. Donald Mallory is Exhibit 5. Catherine Sill is Exhibit 6, for identification. You had a chance to look at those, sir?
Yes.
Do you have any objections to those being admitted?
I guess not.
4 through 6 are admitted.
Mr. Greenberg, does this change your testimony today?
Yes.
Do you admit that you authored the letter for Ms. Balin without her authorization?
No, it wasn't without authorization because I had spoken with her over the phone and she agreed to do the letter. The only trouble was I could never contact her again after that. But she had agreed to do the letter to me over the telephone, and I could just, she gave me her phone number, but she would never answer it. So I wrote it myself because I couldn't contact her. I didn't want to bother her at work. I could have probably called her there, but I didn't want to keep bothering her at work, so I wrote it. But I used the information that she gave me.
Did you sign the letter
Yes.
on her behalf?
Yes.
And isn't it true that Mr. Maury did not write that letter of recommendation?
No, he didn't. But he's a close friend, and I think that he would agree to the letter if he would have seen it. He's kind of old, and I didn't want to bother him too much. And that's why I didn't ask him to write it. I didn't. But I knew he would want to help me if he could.
I have nothing further at this time.
Sir, do you have any other witnesses or documentary evidence you want to present?
I don't think so.
All right, do you have anything you want to respond to with regards to the questions that were asked by Ms. Kellogg before I turn it over to the board for their questions?
I don't think so.
Then I'll start on my left with Mr. Sanchez. Do you have any questions, sir?
Yes, first of all, I'd like to say it takes a lot of courage to come up here and do what you're doing, defending yourself. The only question I had is, do you own weapons, any guns or anything like that?
No, I'm totally against weapons. I've never used any weapons in my life.
I have any more questions.
Okay, hello. I just have a question. Dorothy Hogan's, did she write this letter?
She's here right now.
Okay, you were diagnosed with bipolar disorder. Are you telling me that you're now under medication? And if so, how long have you been under medication that you say is helping you?
I haven't had any problems with any convictions or things like that for about 7 years. And I've been taking Risperdal, lithium, and Lexapro. Those are the 3 medications I take daily.
Okay, were you taking these medications when the 3 letters that...
When I was having my problems, I wasn't taking these 3. I was taking Wellbutrin and lithium. And I had to stop the Wellbutrin because it was unhealthy.
Okay, my question was, when these letters were written in 2016, were you under the same medications that you're speaking of that you've been under for the last 7 years?
Yes.
Okay, I have no more questions.
Mr. Shaw, do you have a question?
You've made great progress through behavior modification and your self-betterment plans and your future for having better relationships with the family. And, I applaud that. You haven't practiced for 19 years. And what plans do you have to get back in the profession?
Well, it's been about 11 years.
Oh, 11 years, okay.
But no, I've been doing things like seminars, webinars, and CEs through the Power Pack CE. So those 3 things have been my way of getting back into it.
No.
Ms. Peters?
It takes a lot of courage to do this, so I know rehabilitation, so congratulations on working towards that with medication and all. I guess I have a question. As a pharmacist, you've got to use certain judgment, so you need to make decisions such as when a medication needs to be refilled, when things should be done, per the law. And there's some concern in the fact that you have admitted to authoring letters that were not authorized by those individuals. So judgment is a critical part of being a pharmacist. So I just wanted to stress that. And in the letter from Don Mowry, I was going to ask you about this at the time that I thought Don Mowry wrote it, but now that you wrote it, there's a statement in here. I understand that Glenn has some difficulties working as a pharmacist. What did you mean by that?
I had a lot of different jobs when I was not doing well. I would have short jobs, I would sometimes lose them, sometimes I would leave them. So I was just having trouble keeping a job. That was one of those.
And were they due to just behavioral issues on your jobs?
I just had difficulties.
No more questions. Thank you.
Hi, Mr. Greenberg. I want to ask you, do you belong to any professional organization like CSHP or CPHA?
No, I don't.
So, have you been, since you don't belong to the organization, so how do you keep abreast of what's going on in the profession for these last 10 years?
Well, I've been doing the CEs to keep myself up to date. The CE programs.
Are you aware of some of the newer legislations that's been passed in California, like SB 493?
Not really.
And let's see what else I'm going to ask you. Are you willing to take the CPJE exam again if requested by the board?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Greenberg, I too commend you on coming here and presenting your case. And I have no questions for you. Thank you for coming here.
Thank you. No questions here.
No questions from Ms. Munoz. Ms. Beal?
Hi, Mr. Greenberg. I too thank you for coming here. I know it's very hard to sit before us and be questioned on what's happening in your life. So did you work for your father for a while?
In the beginning, like for about 2 years.
Okay, so most of your career you were not working for your dad?
Yes.
Does he still own his pharmacy?
No, he's retired.
Okay. And when you said, when Dr. Gutierrez asked you about the jobs, you said it's difficult keeping them. I guess I didn't quite understand. What was the difficulty?
Well, there would be different problems at different jobs. One time I showed up at the wrong place and got terminated. I just had trouble keeping jobs for any period of time back when I was having my difficulties, like from around 2003 to 2006. And part of it had to do with the medication, not being good enough at the time. And then part of it might have been other circumstances.
When I was looking at the letter from Ms. Hogan, one of the things she states in here is she talks about integrity. And that just kind of strikes me kind of odd, integrity, and then also finding the letters. How do you justify, because part of being a pharmacist requires a lot of integrity.
Well, these are people that I knew, and I felt that they would agree with the letters if they read them. I wrote them in such a way that I didn't think they would be bothered by me writing them. I thought they knew me well enough and would thought highly of me enough that they wouldn't mind me writing in such a way.
That's all my questions. Thank you.
Your Honor, I have a couple more questions.
You may proceed.
You testified earlier in connection with the package that you sent to the Superior Court judge and to your former attorney that you intended it to be a joke. And isn't it true, though, that you admitted to the sheriff who arrested you that you intended to scare your former attorney with the package?
I don't believe so. I don't recall
I'd like to request that the arrest report be admitted as Exhibit 7.
Have you shown it to Mr. Greenberg? Yes. What you've handed me is a lot thicker than what you just handed Mr. Greenberg.
Those are copies for all of you.
I see.
There was nothing dangerous about it. It was just a bottle that had some liquid in it. Didn't really smell bad. It was just a mixture of things.
I'm going to mark this as, for identification exhibit 7. Are you offering this in evidence? Ms. Kellogg?
Yes. Yes.
Any objection on that one, sir?
No.
7 is admitted.
If you could turn to the page where it says, Greenberg admitted the package contained a liquid substance and was intended to scare the named recipient, James Carney. Does this refresh your recollection of what you told the sheriff deputy?
I might have said that, but I don't believe it meant that. I don't know. Maybe.
No further. Go ahead.
More to bother, but not to scare.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
It's more to bother and not to scare.
I have nothing further, Mr.
Any follow-up testimony you wish to give, sir, based on anything you were asked?
No thanks.
All right. And no other witnesses or documents you want to present?
No thanks.
All right. Does either side wish to make closing remarks?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead, Ms. Kellogg.
Thank you. It appears as though petitioner submitted false letters of recommendation in connection with this petition hearing, was untruthful in his petition when he stated that he never had any license disciplined, has a significant history of violence and bizarre behavior, which he blames on his mental disorders, and he has not provided the board with any competent evidence of his mental health rehabilitation efforts other than his self-serving testimony and a letter from his employment specialist who does not have personal knowledge of his treatment plan. There are no letters or reports from his therapist. The board therefore has no assurances other than petitioner's self-serving statements that he has his illness under control. And according to his answer to question 21, he has not studied any pharmaceutical literature or taken any refresher courses since his license was revoked to prepare himself for the practice of pharmacy in 11 years. Thank you.
Mr. Greenberg, you can have the last word if you want, if you wish to make any final remarks.
No thanks.
And thank you for your presentation. Thank you, Ms. Kellogg.
Thank you.
That will conclude the hearing on this petition. You're welcome to stay or leave as you wish.
Your Honor, excuse me, my interruption. Could I recommend that we perhaps redact out of the official record the date of birth and the residence address that are on the petition packet, just so that should those documents later be requested, that personal information isn't in the official record?
Any objection to that from either side?
No, Your Honor.
And those will be redacted.
Thank you, Mr. Greenberg.
I'm going to call the next petition of Sean Lee, pharmacist license number 42786, case number 6245, Office of Administrative Hearings, case number 2017-090599. Morning, sir. Could you state your appearance, please?
Sean Haley.
Hearing for
Yes.
the Attorney General.
Good morning, Desiree Kellogg, Deputy Attorney General, appearing on behalf of the people of the state of California pursuant to Business and Professions Code Section 2760.1 and Government Code Section 11522.
Mr. Lee, you're appearing without an attorney today?
Yes.
You heard a little bit of the description of the process earlier in the hearing, so we're going to follow that. I'll ask first if either side wishes to make any opening remarks. To you, sir. This is before your test. I haven't sworn you in to testify yet. So this is just, if you want to summarize anything. Ms. Kellogg did it in the last hearing, so I want to give each side the opportunity.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I would like to thank the Honor and the board members and Deputy Attorney General for giving me this opportunity to my reinstatement of my license. I don't know if I should state everything before that's sworn or.
I'll swear you in before you get into the details.
Okay.
That's adequate for purposes of opening. Ms. Kellogg, do you wish to make any opening?
Yes, I do, Your Honor. Thank you. Petitioner has a history of discipline and dishonest criminal activity. On May 25th, 2014, petitioner, a pharmacist, was convicted of violating Penal Code Sections 487A, grand theft, 530.58, credit card theft, and 664.487A, attempted grand theft. Among other terms of his criminal conviction, petitioner was ordered to pay Wells Fargo restitution in the amount of $13,156.09. Prior to that time, petitioner was the pharmacist in charge of a pharmacy, East Side Pharmacy, which was owned by a felon who was convicted of transporting a large amount of cocaine. On the board's inspection, it was determined that the pharmacy had purchased large amounts of controlled substances but lacked the records of acquisition and disposition for those drugs, as well as the drugs it had purchased. On September 9, 2010, an accusation was filed against petitioner for violating Business and Professions Code Sections 4081A and 4105A. In that, petitioner did not dispense any drugs during the time he was the pharmacist in charge, did not have knowledge of any drug stock, and had no records of acquisition and disposition of drugs. Effective August 27, 2012, petitioner's pharmacist license was revoked by way of a default decision in order. Petitioner has now filed a petition for reinstatement of his license, and I'm prepared to proceed with questions for petitioner.
If you could present the petition and other exhibits to begin.
Thank you. I'd like to have marked for identification and offering evidence as Exhibit 1, the original petition packet with accompanying documents, and the default decision in order as Exhibit 2. The board members and petitioner have been provided with copies of the same set of these exhibits. I'd also like to mark for identification and offering to evidence as Exhibit 3, the agreement to electronic recording of hearing.
Yes. Mr. Lee, you've seen these exhibits?
Yes.
All right, do you have any objection to those being admitted?
No.
Exhibits 1 through 3 will be marked and admitted, as Ms. Kellogg indicated. So I'm going to administer an oath to you. Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and the truth? So this is your chance to present whatever testimony you wish to give, descriptions of events to the board with regards to your petition. So you're free to do that now.
Thank you. Again, I'd like to thank you and the board members and in general for this opportunity. Prior to my being the PIC for Eastside Pharmacy, I was a pharmacist for over 23 years. And whether being as an owner or as an employee of various companies, either as a pharmacist in charge or a registered pharmacist. And I had no prior issues with the board all those times. And on about March 2008, I agreed to be invited to be the interim pharmacist in charge, being temporary, with the understanding that according to Mr. Carney, it's a licensed facility that is a closed-door pharmacy, and that deals with only amino acids that the pharmacy acquired from various distributors, and in a sense, it's a very specialized patients that he serves, and that's my understanding from him, and that there are no controlled substances or any other medication that will be dispensed. And as such, that's what I stated on the board when I took over as the pharmacist in charge, and I understood that there was a prior pharmacist in charge as well. So it was an odd job, needless to say, but living in the prior history of the company, I felt that it was okay at the time to, and I had told him repeatedly that it's a temporary position that I want. It's not a permanent position. And at the same time, I would like to state that looking back, I could have done a better job at, in terms of when he gave me the key, I could have rekeyed the whole pharmacy so that no one else will have the key. Because what happened was, he behind the back and most likely behind the other PIC back had ordered stuff that led us to where we are at today in terms of his honesty. He breached not only my trust, the past PIC's trust, but also the board as well. And I'm glad that it was caught, doing so by whatever that happened in terms of his drunken driving and all that. And at the same time, I want to say that regarding me not being present to defend myself at that time, I was going through a personal issue of gambling, and something that I'm not proud of. It's a part of my life that I have come to terms with, and I had taken the necessary steps to keep that part of my life in check by going to Gamblers Anonymous, attending regularly, and at the same time, when I was able to have the money, which was June of last year, I gathered money so that I could get it. I did not have health care all this time prior to June because I did not have enough income to do so. And so in June of last year, I was able to gather up the money, and I did attend a session with a behavioral therapist at Molina Medical. And through those sessions and through my GA meetings, I have realized that I have a disease. I'm dealing with disease state. It's not a feeling or anything like that. It's the disease that pretty much ate me up in terms of family and friends, and it made me realize that I will lose myself and my family completely if I don't deal with it. And so far I have taken steps to do so. And as far as the case against me, as the Deputy Attorney General had mentioned, I have made restitution to Wells Fargo, and I had also attended community services that at the time was I was supposed to do, and I'm very remorseful about what happened, and I have, like I said, I have made restitution, and I have served time as well for it, and gone through probation, and the judge has stayed on my case pretty much. And, pharmacy is, is the main profession I went to school for, and I was trained in, and like I said, practiced over a long period of time, and it's through the action of someone else that led me here. I'm pleading with the board to give me a chance to practice pharmacy again, and working while on my time off, to support myself, I work with my younger brother and my older brother in their construction company. My younger brother is present behind me, and while working with them, I help also I learned the value of hard work. Knowing they wake up at 6 in the morning or earlier every day, and I'm usually the late one. Sometimes 7 days a week. That's how hard he works, and a lot of times, my gambling habit hurts him a lot, and for me to see him, work so hard every day for to support his family, really reiterate my commitment to not ever take a step again into a gambling facility. While I'm away from the practice of pharmacy, the steps that I have taken to keep up to date with the pharmacy profession, besides going with the board's website and whatnot, also Pharmacy Times, either through the internet or through publications. I have kept up to date with various disease states such as ADD, attention deficit, and new medication as well. And the reason why I brought attention deficit is because also on my time away from pharmacy, besides working with my brothers, I also teach what I call a fitness, spiritual and physical fitness class in my church every Friday night. And seeing the kids nowadays, I talk to the parents, and they always knowing that I'm a pharmacist, they always ask me about certain medications, and I get this a lot from families and friends as well, asking about medication, and I see that a lot of the younger kids are now on a lot of those type of medication, and so I felt it was an important aspect of the pharmacy that I want to keep up on as well. And besides working with my brother as well and doing my church activity, I also do research a lot regarding fitness and nutrition, and I thought that's an important part of pharmacy as well in terms of giving my patients an extra edge in terms of the healthcare. Instead of dealing with the symptom, giving them medication, I can also at the same time teach them how to be healthy as well. So I'm looking, when I get back into pharmacy, I'm looking into an overall integrated healthcare complete healthcare outcome for the patient instead of just treating their symptoms. And the other reason why I want to get back to pharmacy is, like I said, it's the only thing I know how to do. Pretty much, my whole life is I chose pharmacy as on my own free will. It's not forced. Being Asian, usually the parents will force certain professions on you, and I chose pharmacy because I want to help others. And I'm asking the board to give me a chance to do so. I have like I said, I've come to terms with my illness of gambling with the help of my family and the people at my church and through GA. I feel that I'm ready to do so. The other part that I want to say is that to keep myself in check with my illness is I have my younger brother that I answer to on a daily basis, and one of my closest friends, Harry, who's here as well. I kind of like my sponsor in terms of me checking in. Get myself better and be ready to practice pharmacy again. So that is my case.
Thank you. Ms. Kellogg, do you have questions?
Yes, thank you. Are you currently on criminal probation?
No.
Isn't it true that 2 bench warrants were issued for your arrest in connection with your criminal case?
Yes, ma'am. At that time, I would like to say that I had made restitution and I had attended most of the Caltrans that I had to do, and under the suggestion of my lawyer, he said that if I didn't complete all of my hours per the plea agreement, I would go to jail. And at that time, I've never had anything, done anything criminal before in my life, and like I said, I had no issues with the board or anything like that, and I was scared. I was scared to go to jail, and so I didn't appear on the day that I was supposed to appear. I'm remorseful about that. And, like I said, I have made restitution by spending my time in jail for that, and have a lot of time to think, about all the things that I did, and come to terms with them.
Do you suffer from any addictions?
Gambling addiction, yes.
How about a drug or alcohol addiction?
No, never.
And when was the last time you gambled?
I was, well, I don't recall, but it's probably up to the 2008 I would say it would be the last time.
Have you participated in the 12-step Gamblers Anonymous program?
Yes.
And which step are you currently on?
Are you saying attending the Gamblers Anonymous meeting, or?
Are you working the Gamblers Anonymous recovery program?
No, but I do attend the meeting.
And when was the last time you attended a meeting?
The reason why I'm looking through is because I had an automobile accident last month. I just want to be sure. July 31st would be the last one.
Of this year?
Yes.
And what kind of automobile accident did you have?
I got rear-ended.
You got rear-ended?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you suffer any injuries?
A little bit of back injury, and just experienced heavy numbness and dizziness.
So the last Gamblers Anonymous meeting that you attended was July 31st of this year?
Yes.
And how frequently did you attend these meetings?
Starting from May 2012, I attended, I would say 3 to 4 times a week. And as I go along, right now I'm attending them weekly.
Oh, so you're attending Gamblers Anonymous meetings weekly now?
Yes.
But isn't your testimony that the last time you attended was July 31st, 2017?
I attended weekly up until that time, and then I guess that.
So you were not attending Gamblers Anonymous meetings 3 to 4 times a week?
At the beginning of May, during my court case, May 2012, yes, I have.
And then you attended them weekly? Do Do you have a sponsor?
At the beginning, yes, I did.
And you currently don't have a sponsor?
No.
And when's the last time you had a sponsor? What year?
I believe up to the end of 2012.
Are you familiar with the 12 steps of the recovery program for Gamblers Anonymous?
No.
So you've never worked any of those steps, 12 steps of the program of recovery for Gamblers Anonymous? And what does your program or your meetings consist of with Gamblers Anonymous that you attended? What do you do with the meetings?
Pretty much we try to help each other out in terms of dealing, having open and honest discussions regarding our illness. We will go out and present ourselves in terms of where we have been, what led us to where we're at. A lot of times, it's not a pretty thing to say or do, but we can be open in front of each other in that setting. So I was able to divulge how it affected me, my family, my friends, and how I have, or how we have improved in terms in those areas as time goes by. Most of the meetings set up as such, get up and just like the same setting as this, and in front of others that suffer the same fate as well. So.
And when was the last time you, when did you stop attending the Gamblers Anonymous meetings 3 to 4 times a week? Was it 2012?
Yes, ma'am.
And then is it your testimony that you, from 2013 to the present, you've been attending the meetings weekly?
Yes, ma'am.
And why did you stop attending those meetings?
Are you saying after 2012 or?
No, why did you stop? It was your testimony earlier that you stopped attending Gamblers Anonymous meetings, that your last meeting was July 31st,
Oh,
2017.
at that time, my mother has always had a back condition, and I had made a connection with her for over a year again. I had her forgiveness, and she was suffering from a back issue, and she was asking me to help her do laundry, which I was happy to do, and also take her grocery shopping as well. And lately, taking her to church as well with my niece. So it ran, the time kind of ran over past the meeting time. I felt, I told her I need to go does not like to be alone a lot of times, and I had big, how should I say, trying to be there for her as much as I can. And that could be, at the time besides working with my brothers, meetings on Sundays, so I've missed a few this past few times.
So what current treatment are you participating in for your gambler's addiction?
I would like to, have a better job so I can afford healthcare wise. I'm paying at the time that I could afford to, and I know that I needed to do so. Back from last June, with Ms. Cantor at Molina, a monthly, even through Obamacare, monthly health care I had to pay was $368 a month. And seeing her also cost another $50. So I'm looking at $400 a month that I could not really afford it. But I know I needed to. I had to really scrape up a lot, asking my brothers for help. Knowing that's a necessary step that I need to take, and I will continue to do so. If the board will allow me to practice again, and I can make that money, and I will continue to go to see specialists.
So is it true that you're currently not seeing any mental health care providers?
I can't afford to anymore.
And when was the last time you saw a mental health care provider?
Was that September 14, 2016?
So you haven't seen a mental health care provider since September 2016?
No, ma'am.
Did the court order you to participate in a Gamblers Anonymous program?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that why you started to attend the Gamblers Anonymous program?
Yes, in part, and at the time that, the case started, I did realize, part of me realized that, I really need to correct myself and dealing with my gambling issues.
Have you participated in any inpatient treatment programs for your addiction?
No, ma'am.
Besides seeing a therapist, have you participated in any other outpatient programs?
No, ma'am.
And how long did you see your therapist at Molina Medical?
About 4 months.
So you saw your mental health therapist for 4 months in 2016, correct?
Yes, ma'am. Yes. But I can't afford to at the time to do so.
And isn't it true that you've never taken continuing education courses in the role of pharmacist in charge or record keeping?
I'm trying to recollect. CEs that I've taken, no.
You submitted letters of professional reference today. Did you advise them of your criminal conviction?
Also, I'm recollecting. I'm sorry. My brother knows, and I would strongly believe, I mean not strongly believe, but Harry as well knows. And Alan, Mr. Alan Lee, no. And as well as Neil. These three.
You testified earlier that when you assumed the role of pharmacist in charge for Eastside Pharmacy, you had been a pharmacist for 23 years. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And isn't it true that during the board's investigation, you told the board inspector that you worked for the wholesaler, ESP Services, and not in the pharmacy?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Isn't it true that when the board investigated the wholesaler, ESP Services, and the pharmacy, Eastside Pharmacy, for which you were the pharmacist in charge, you told the board inspector that you worked in the wholesaler, ESP Services, and you did not work in the pharmacy, Eastside Pharmacy?
I don't recall that.
At this time, Your Honor, I'd like to introduce evidence of the investigation report dated October 31st, 2008. May I approach?
Yes. I'll mark this for identifications for. You're offering this in evidence?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Regan, do you have a chance to look at this?
I'm looking.
Let me know when you're done.
Thank you, John. What does it say on here that I agree with the board inspector?
Page 9. It says, when questioned, our PH Lee stated he works in the wholesale and checks the vials, and he's never worked in the pharmacy.
I'm sorry, what page were you on?
Page 9, the third paragraph.
As I have stated earlier, I agreed to do only the part with the sale of the amino acid. So I don't know what you are referring to in terms of you.
Does this refresh your recollection that you told the inspector that you worked in the wholesaler and that you never worked in the pharmacy?
When I worked at the pharmacy itself, the description of the pharmacy to me was a wholesale close to a pharmacy. Nothing to do with any prescriptions. The only prescription I had to deal with was the amino acid, but I had to check for as in terms of expiration dating, in terms of the standard pharmacy.
So it's true you never worked in the pharmacy?
In the pharmacy itself?
Yes.
No.
Did this raise a red flag concern for you that you were the pharmacist in charge of the pharmacy and you never worked in the pharmacy?
As far as I know, at the time I was, like I stated earlier, I was supposed to only, if it's close to a pharmacy, I only come in when the prescription to be checked in terms of that amino acid. And as far as I was aware of at the time, it was a board certified, board licensed facility that I was dealing with. And I don't know what went on behind my back or before or with the past PIC. All I know is, I don't know if it was under board investigation or, I don't know. All I know is that at the time that I signed on to agree to working with him at the time was, it's a board licensed facility that it's close to a pharmacy, and the amino acid was the product he was dealing with. Like I said, again, it was an odd situation. That's why I wasn't really comfortable. That's why I told him that since I already signed on, I'm going to be only temporarily doing it. It's not something that, is a permanent basis.
And isn't it true you also told the inspector that you were filling wholesale orders per prescriptions at the wholesaler and not the pharmacy? On page 9, the inspector wrote, R.P.H. Lee just works in the wholesale and checks the amino acids for injections sent from the wholesale using prescriptions.
That's true, yes.
That was true. And that didn't raise any concerns for you?
previous statement stands.
Isn't it true that the vials of amino acids did not have any NDC numbers, no lot numbers, no expiration dates, and no names of manufacturers?
Not that I recall.
I have nothing further at this time.
Mr. Lee, are you going to call any other witnesses or present any other documents?
No, sir.
Then I'll turn it over to questions from the board. Start from my right this time.
Ms. Reel.
Ms. Reel.
So first off, Mr. Lee, thank you for appearing before us. As you probably heard, when you're talking to Mr. Greenberg, we appreciate you coming and providing your side of the story. So the gambling issue really came up, I mean, after the whole problem with the pharmacy.
It was concurrent, right?
So it's kind of a blessing, maybe, that you
Yes.
realize that this whole thing happened because, boom, the gambling.
Yes, sir. It's a blessing in disguise. That and then I, that I was able to come to terms with it, and at the same time allow them time to see who I really am, which is it's in my nature to help others. That's why I teach. I bring fitness to people that can't afford a gym membership every Friday night, and I think there's a million longing to be more healthy.
So when the district attorney was talking, I was asking you questions, I thought I heard that you stopped going to the meetings July 31st, 2017 because of a car accident. And then I thought when she asked you again,
Yes,
it was because of your mother.
Yes, it's a concurrent thing as well.
Does your mother not understand that asking you to do all these things caused you not to go to your Gamblers Anonymous meetings?
I'm working with that situation right now. I'm not stopping from going. In fact, the balls have been rolling. I have discussed with my brother what to do in terms of switching, me take turn taking care of her. So it's just a matter of logistics for me, either picking another. It's just a lot of things happening for me preparing for this meeting. It's nerve-wracking. I don't know,
I'm sure.
I mean, as you can tell, and it's not an easy thing to do. And it's something that I have, to be honest, over a year's time that I know I have to sit here and face you guys, and as well as any public person that I hear, and as well as the Deputy Attorney General. I know that, and it's nerve-wracking. And this past month has been, I have the whole world on my shoulders, pretty much, and to make it worse, at the time that I'm taking care of my mom, she had an episode a couple of weeks, like a week and a half ago, that she just had to go see the doctor, have a CAT scan and everything, and thank goodness I talked to her yesterday. She's fine. The test came out okay, and but it's the process that I'm not going to ignore in terms of going to school, and as well as when I gather more money, I would definitely go see. I like my behavioral therapist. She helped me a lot, and when I can afford to do so, I would
family have it, so that's fantastic. One of our laser focuses here is to make sure that you have rehabilitated and that what happened in the past won't happen in the future.
I understand.
My observation is, in talking about going to your, Gambling Anonymous, is it appears, and I want you to clarify this for me, it appears that you attend the meetings at, various rates over the years, but maybe you aren't engaged. Because normally we hear about people like where they are in their steps and very definitive rehabilitation efforts. And I'm hoping you can help clarify that for me, because that's not what I've been hearing.
To me, GA is based on faith. We have the prayers and all that before each meeting, and I have relied heavily on faith lately. And not lately, but since the time of all these happened, and I wear my faith, I would say, on my sleeve a lot of times, and I guess to answer your question is, knowing that dealing with my addiction itself, my illness, require a lot of faith, and I rely a lot on faith. And I guess in further going to the meetings, I will look into doing the STEP program as well, to really ensure that I'm no longer a slave of gambling. I just felt for the moment that, my faith and having my checkpoints, my best friend, my younger brother, and working with him all day long, and all at the same time helping with my mother. How should I say? As well as having faith. And once I make enough money, going to the therapist will ensure my not going back, turn back. And like I said earlier, I will look into 100% into those STEP programs that the VA has mentioned as well. I don't take her words lightly. I take it to heart, and as well as you.
Thank you very much.
Good morning, Mr. Lee. Thank you again for being here. And I just have one question for you. When was the last time that you engaged in any gambling activities?
Like I told her, I vaguely remember, but I believe it's sometime back in 2008.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's all I have.
Mr. Weiser. Thank you, sir. As well, thank you for coming here, and thank you for having the fortitude to do what you're doing.
Thank you.
I noticed that it's actually been just about 5 years since your license was revoked, within a couple of days of revocation. And during the 5 years, according to the information that I have, from April 14, 2016 to January 29, 2017, in all the 5 years, in those months, you took 30 and a half hours of continuing education units with regards to your pharmacy, trying to keep up to date on your pharmacy. So, do you feel that in 5 years, taking 30 units of CE, that you have been able to maintain the competency So if you did get your license back, that you could go back into, let's say, a community pharmacy and perform with the competency that we would expect you to have?
I believe so. It's something that is, I would say, second nature to me, but to be honest, every time I pass by a pharmacy, I'm pitching to counsel. I miss counseling patients, having rapport with patients. And while I was practicing, I had a lot of, good rapport with patients. And in terms of, diminishing my skills, in fact, I think I improved my interpersonal skills. I know there's new drugs and whatnot that come onto the market, and I feel that it's something that I adapt very fast in life and at work. I'm a quick learner, so in that sense, I don't think I diminish my skill in those aspects. For me, learning more about new medication and stuff like that would be helpful, and I'm ready to do so.
So given your skills and your ability to learn quickly, if you were able to have an opportunity to resume your career as a pharmacist, would you be willing to take the CPJE to verify to the board that you do have the competency to perform as a pharmacist in the community or anyplace else?
Yes.
Okay. And have you been able to keep up with the regulations as well? I mean, over during the past 5 years, to the compliment of the board president, there has been changes in
The board
regulations
members.
and even legislation. Have you been able to keep up with the changes of your profession as far as a regulatory and a legislative standpoint?
Not as much as I'd like to. I will ramp up that department as well, besides learning about new medication. I'm ready to take on that task as well.
Thank you. Thank you once again for coming here.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Long?
Thank you.
Mr. Lee, given that what you had gone through, I just want to thank you for have the courage to come in front of the board. But as you can tell, we're only humans. We don't look that terrible, so you don't have to be nervous. Just have a couple of questions to ask you. So where did you go to gamble? Did you go to Vegas, or you go to local casinos?
Oh, Vegas, maybe. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And normally, who do you go with? Your brothers or your friends, or?
Oh, sometimes friends, but a lot of time myself.
Okay, but not the brothers that you currently
No,
work with.
no,
All right. Do you still associate with those friends going to Vegas?
no,
Not anymore.
no, sir, no.
Okay. And what church do you go to?
It's a Cambodian American church in Long Beach.
Okay. And how often do you go?
Every Sunday.
Every Sunday?
Yes.
Okay. So do you honestly think that you could resist the temptation of going to the casino again, based on the faith that you said you mentioned?
Faith as well as, like I say, I will, wrap up my as well as seeing the behavioral therapist.
And did they charge you to go to those classes for the Gambling Anonymous?
No, that's besides the donations to various functions that we do.
There's no charge.
No, sir.
So you still could go whenever you could?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming. I know this is tough coming before the board. Our role is to ensure that the public protection mandate is in place. So some of us are pharmacists, some of us are public members, but our role is to make sure that patients in California are safeguarded. I have questions for you about, were you a PIC before you took on this position in another pharmacy? Or is this your first PIC experience?
No, it's my second.
Your second?
Yeah.
Okay, so what is the role of a PIC, do you believe?
To ensure, like you said, the safety of the public through various procedural manners that the pharmacy has to take steps to prevent in terms of causing harm to patients, making sure that that there's correct medication dispensed in the end to the patient, and then make sure that you know the medication that is dispensed to proper patients as well.
During your role as PIC in this pharmacy, did you dispense any prescriptions?
No, no.
Any-
Like I said, it was an odd situation I was in at the time in terms of taking on that role, because it was interesting in terms of how amino acid was going to help a certain group of patient base, I guess, at the time. So, but no, to my knowledge at the time, there's no drug to be dispensed.
So the amino acids, were they prescription amino acids or over the counter?
I believe it's prescription.
Prescription. And did you review the source of the amino acids? Because I was reading in the report that these came from Mexico.
Yes, at the time, to be honest with you, I did not think that anything was going to be dispensed, and I did not have a chance to look at everything that comes with it at the time. I mean, there was no prescription that came on. I was just an interim PIC at the time. He did not, I guess he was using it as a front to do other stuff, but at the time there was no patient, that's why like I said at the end, I felt really uncomfortable doing it, and I wanted, I really wanted out, just being in the process.
Were you employed part-time, full-time, on-call?
Pretty much on call part-time.
Part-time. Were you paid full-time hours? Or how much did you receive per month?
At the time, I felt that I wasn't really doing anything. So to be honest, I did not get anything because again, like I said, it was a very strange situation for me to be in, and it was, in fact, it was it's a favor of a mutual friend that asked me to do it, and I would, I would say that, when this business, because for me, I want to earn an honest money, To me, I did not really do anything yet, and I'm waiting to see when business comes in.
Did you have another job during this time?
Yes.
Oh, you were working at another pharmacy?
Yes.
And you were PIC for this one?
Yes.
Okay. And did you visit, how many times a week did you visit the pharmacy that you were in charge of?
I would say like once every couple of weeks, I was there. But everything's always the same. There's nothing out of the ordinary.
Was your other job a full-time job?
Yes.
And you were dispensing pharmacist, or were you working as another PIC?
I was a registered pharmacist, regular pharmacist.
At an independent pharmacy?
I'm sorry?
Where did you work?
At the time, I was a floater for Rite Aid. At the time.
Full-time hours?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. No further questions.
Yeah, like the others, thanks for coming here. Thanks for bringing a support team there. That's always a reassuring sign. Maybe to rehash old business, and this happened, I know, in a 4-month period 9 years ago. And so you were the only pharmacist employed there, right?
At the ESP?
Yeah.
Yeah, after Myrna, the past BIC.
Oh, okay. And during that period, that 4 months you were there were Vicodin, ES, Valium, Klonopin, and Cialis, all purchased. And those were purchased, when those were received, who received those?
I was not even aware of any of those things. So I assume it's him,
Man, easy money and a hard lesson. Jeez, this is...
Yes, sir. Like I said, I was in on the situation I was in, and and like I said from an earlier statement, that all I had to do was rekey the pharmacy. That would have taken care of any of this situation.
Not to be too cavalier, but are you still friends with that mutual friend that asked?
I too want to thank you for coming in, and also commend you for 7 years of no gambling, and in spite of the fact that it looks like you didn't really start the AA meetings to 2012, when the last time you stopped gambling was in 2008.
I'm sorry.
I said, according to the testimony, you haven't gambled since 2008.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And I hear that the AA meetings you were going to 3 to 4 times a week was in 2012. So from 2008 to 2012, you weren't going to any meetings, and yet you didn't gamble.
No, I did not gamble.
Okay. Well, that's pretty commendable that it's been 7 years, and I actually wanted to ask you the same question Debbie asked you about when you stopped going in July. We heard it was, first you said a car accident, and then you said something about your mother. When you mentioned the car accident, was it because you heard you weren't able to go,
It presented another issue on my plate in terms of dealing with my injury, as well as taking care of the car, which I haven't been able to yet, and as well as being able to take care of them all as well. So it all come to the same thing. Yeah.
Okay.
It's just a bad month.
Okay, so you didn't go August and some part of September, so you do plan to go back as
Yes.
soon as possible.
Yeah, like I told yes.
All right.
A big part of my plan to do so.
Okay. Okay, and I noticed like some confusion in answering questions pertaining to whether you worked in the pharmacy or you worked in the wholesale. I see though that they both are at the same address. So they're both the same address, the ESP services and the Eastside Pharmacy. So how were they separated? It was all at the same address. I'm trying to understand why you were a little confused about whether you worked in the pharmacy or...
I see your point. He hit that part for me pretty much.
Okay.
The other part of this, it's not what I saw. It's the part that he never showed me.
Okay. And so you worked full-time for Rite Aid, and you just went there as a favor. You didn't get paid anything for the sacrifice.
No.
Wow. Okay. I have no other questions.
Mr. Sanchez?
Yeah, I would also like to commend you for coming up here and talking to us. I know you done your restitution, jail, probation, and you paid your debt for what you were being charged for. But I commend you for taking all the steps that you've been doing, going to church, trying to get help, and doing the hard work, construction work.
Yeah.
I definitely agree, pharmaceutical work is a little bit easier.
Yes, it is.
And I wish you luck.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. I appreciate all of you. Thank you.
Your Honor, I have a follow-up question.
Go ahead.
You testified that you stopped gambling in 2008, yet the criminal complaint was filed in 2012. What led to the filing of the criminal complaint in 2012 if it wasn't your gambling addiction?
You're referring to the court case?
The criminal court case where you were convicted of grand theft and credit card fraud.
That was a case that I believe started way before that. It's just that that's the time, April 13th, 2012 was the time that before that, I did not know that there was a warrant for me. I came back from the gym, worked out, and I got pulled over, and then that's when I found out it was a case that like over 5 years in the works. But the reason we're referring to 2012, it's just a process that the case was going through. The case, I believe it started like 4 or 5 years before that. So it has nothing to do with the time stamping, like the gambling at all. It's just the outcome of the case itself.
So your gambling addiction didn't contribute to your arrest?
Yes.
It did contribute to your arrest?
It led me there.
And it's your testimony that it took 4 years for you to be, for a criminal complaint to be filed against you?
I did not know at the time, I did not know that there was a case against me.
I have nothing.
Yes.
So the grand theft and the credit card fraud, where did that occur? That had nothing to do with these pharmacies?
No.
So who did you steal from?
At the time, there was money put into my account of the amount stated. And from learning from the case itself, I have, it's another can in a sense. So there was some wash check that was put into my Wells Fargo account.
Not by you.
No. And at the time I was gambling, all I know, it was an illness. All I know is making money. So whatever money I have, I wasn't even aware of how much I have in my account. It's the worst illness ever. I mean, it blinds me from all spots. So I was drawing money from wherever source that I can, in terms of, whatever. When I put the card in, the money comes out, and then there I go, So I was guilty of taking the money out, but that's as far as I know in terms of that. And when I took on a lawyer to defend me, to get the plea deal was that, I agreed to, I should have said, taking the money and then paying the subscription. And that's the gist of it.
I just have one follow-up question. So, it's your testimony, I just want to clarify, you never received any payment when you were PIC for the pharmacy?
No.
For any of the months, any time during that time?
No.
Thank you.
So there was, the Exhibit 4, the investigation report, do you have any objection to that being admitted here?
The one,
One Ms. Kellogg was asking questions about, yes.
no.
4 is admitted. Ms. Kellogg, did you have any other evidence?
No, Your Honor.
Your Honor, could I, this is Laura Frieden, could I also ask that, similar to the last case, that we redact out the personal information from the petition packet? And I also believe there's 2 query screens in the packet that we might want to remove.
To what in the packet?
I'm not sure how, my pages aren't numbered, but there's 2 screens that appear to be when they were verifying the licensure of the people submitting letters of recommendation. And they pertain to the people who submitted the letters of recommendation. I would recommend those be removed.
You're referring to addresses or?
Excuse me?
What information are you referring to needs to be removed?
Can I show you?
Yes. Objection on removing the personal information, the address and birth date from the petition?
No, Your Honor.
That will be done. Do you wish to make a closing statement or closing remarks?
I'd just like to say that again that pharmacy is the only profession that I know, and I would like the board to allow me to practice again. And as I stated earlier, I'm ready to come back. And that's all I want to say. And I would like to thank you, each other, and all the lawyers here, and the Deputy Attorney General as well. Thank you for this opportunity.
Ms. Kellogg?
Yes, thank you. Petitioner has been convicted of dishonest crimes. He has a gambling addiction, which is not treated by his own admissions. But more importantly, the board has been provided with no evidence of any rehabilitation efforts other than petitioner's self-serving testimony that he'll go to rehabilitation if his license is granted. We have no evidence that he stopped gambling in 2008 other than his self-serving testimony. Petitioner's also evidenced a failure to adhere to the laws and regulations of the state and failed to exercise good judgment when he was convicted of his criminal activities and credit card fraud. He also ignored the warning signs when he was the pharmacist in charge. Even though he was not paid for it, he should never have accepted that position. And he ignored the warning signs that the pharmacy was not operating in compliance with the
Mr. Lee, if you'd like the last word, you can have it. Thank you for your presentation. Thank you,
Can I
Ms.
ask
Kelly.
a question before we, this round?
Yes.
So you're making, I'm having trouble putting the two things together with regards to what you're calling credit card fraud. According to Mr. Lee, money was put into his account that he was unaware of, but he spent it. And charges were brought up against him for that. But was there, in my mind, credit card fraud is where I take somebody's credit card that isn't mine and purposely use it knowing that I'm defrauding somebody. So are we talking about the same incident or two separate incidents?
The same incident, a criminal complaint was filed against him on 4/13/2012. And count 2 was for a violation of Penal Code Section 487A, and he was convicted of that, and that's credit card fraud.
Okay, so
It's not.
is it credit card fraud by definition of the law, or but the facts that Mr. Lee presented for what occurred, are those the facts that you understand to be the truth as well?
I don't have a copy of the criminal complaint. I just have the conviction records that Mr. Lee attached. So I don't know the facts arising out of the conviction with specificity. I just know that 487A is the unauthorized use of someone else's credit. And it's...
Could that be the same? Could we be talking about the same situation as far as the eyes of the law? The situation that Mr. Lee described, money going into his account that wasn't his, and he using that, would that fall under the credit card fraud law that we are talking about?
I don't know without actually looking at the complaint and facts, and I don't have a copy of the arrest report, so therefore, all I can say is that his statement, appears not to be compatible with that, with his conviction for violating 487A.
Okay. Hey, thanks. Thank you, Your Honor.
Anything else from the parties? Hearing nothing, then that concludes the hearing on the petition. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Lee.
Thank you.
Deborah. 15 minutes, okay?
Yes.
We're going to take a 15-minute break. We'll reconvene back about 11:35.